Niehaus wrote 4 volumes of jazz studies and exercises specifically for the growing saxophone player in mind. As you probably know, Lennie Niehaus was a powerhouse in music from the late 40s, playing with the Stan Kenton band all the way through, doing his own stuff in the, I think, late 50s and 60s with West Coast jazz and stuff. You can hear it in his writing. It's pretty cool stuff. But it covers all the jazz vocabulary, not all of it, but I'd say substantially most of the jazz vocabulary, or substantially all of the jazz vocabulary that you'll need to know to get started before you do stuff on your own, before you start crafting new lines, melodic lines, or patterns as you improvise and play the music. Especially jazz. So Lennie Niehaus knows what he's doing. He's the real deal. So this book that Lennie Niehaus wrote is the first volume, Basic Jazz Conception for Saxophone, and it contains a number of exercises and etudes or studies. So I will go through all of the material in this book for the sake of really sort of spelling out the best way, in my opinion, to approach the basics in these exercises. And he wrote these specifically for you and me to learn while you play kind of idea here. So just I wanted to read to you one of the endorsements by Stan Kenton, who was his band leader in the 40s. And as you know, Stan Kenton was also a powerhouse of a big band artist. So he says that one of the most challenging problems has always been the task of making jazz articulations and phrasings clear to the young player. Niehaus's book is certain to prove itself a valuable means to this end. It is unique, and it's signed Stan Kenton. And this is from the second page of his books. And it's meaningful that it comes from Stan Kenton, and not only because he was Lennie Niehaus's former boss, but Stan Kenton also was, in my opinion, the real deal. He was less popular than some of the other big band artists, but he was a pioneer, and he pushed the envelope with that sound. And I'm very thankful for that. And I'm trying to do the same thing too in my journey as I'm managing this illness here. So I figured I would go through basic stuff so I could relearn it as well. So I did a video on exercise 1, and in addition to the 12 exercises, there are etudes, and the very first one is called Having a Ball. And I wanted to point out that these articulation marks that you see, like this flat line here and that accent here, whenever you see that, you're not using your tongue at the end of a phrase. You're really abruptly stopping your breath, okay? But when you get to a mark like this, where it's not at the end of a phrase, you will use your tongue, okay? So for these accent markings, like the flat one here, I always think of the flat part of your tongue. When it comes to this marking, I think of the tip of the tongue. However, as you can see in this case, at the end of a phrase, I don't use my tongue. I just abruptly withhold the breath. So I'll demonstrate that for you in a moment. But before demonstrating it, I think we should just note a few things. Like, first of all, it's in the key of C major, so there are no sharps or flats. Makes it nice and easy for you. But before playing, I always recommend, regardless of the tune or what level you're at, it is very helpful to sing the tune. And you don't have to be a singer, obviously, if you're a saxophone player, right? So you can just be bold and shameless about it, because if you're practicing on your own, you're alone. No one's going to be listening to you. So I suggest singing it. You look at the first line here, and it would sound like da 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 yap da da do da da ba da ba da yap ba ba do wop. Okay, now I would use a metronome. Let's turn the metronome on here, and I would do it at a tempo that you're comfortable at. So if this is too fast, I would lower the tempo. Okay, and having a ball is the title, and I think he's not just being frivolous about it. I think it's very much about swing the song, getting that basic idea down when you're playing. So it's gonna sound like with the metronome, da ba da ba dee yap ba ba doo wop, doo ba doo ba dee yap ba ba doo wop, ba 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 doo ba doo ba doo ba dee ba dee yap ba boo dot. I did the second ending there, just for demonstration singing. Now you should do the same thing too. It's kind of like scat singing, but just do whatever you want just to get that sound out. Because singers and saxophone players do have several important things in common. Maybe not several, but at least two. Okay, one of them is the whole idea of using your diaphragm to control the breath. So at the end of these phrases, when you withhold the breath, it's just like what a vocalist would be doing, like in da ba da ba dee yap bop, or da ba da ba dee yap ba da woo bop, da ba da ba dee yap, like there. And that's the ball that Lennie Niehaus is writing. And the idea of swinging these notes is also a separate concept that I think is universal in this kind of music, which is swing. So if you swing here, you can swing in any tune. So this song is kind of critical and important for laying down that foundation. Use the metronome for as long as you need it. When I was a kid, I used it for, I think, for a period of time, and then I stopped using it because I think I was able to develop an internal sense of tempo that was close enough, okay, to the metronome. And speaking of close enough, swing is not a precise concept like music in classical music. Swing actually deals with the imperfections in measuring time, and it gives you a little bit of leeway when it comes to where you land on a note that will create the swing effect. So if you were not swinging the eighth notes in this tune, it would sound like this. Let's put the metronome on again, all right? So it would sound very precise. If you were approaching this like a classical musician, it should sound like this. I'm gonna try really hard not to swing. Da 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 da. Oh, I'm swinging there, okay. But you see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to make it straight. Da 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 da. Da 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 da. All right, so it sounds less swingy, right? So what's happening there is I'm not really landing on the beat the same way I would land on it in a classical piece of music. So let me demonstrate what Arnie Lawrence, my teacher, my mentor, taught me about swing in a big band. Actually, he did this in a group. It was brilliant. He's the real deal. Arnie Lawrence played with everybody, Benny Goodman, Sonny Rollins, Stan Getz, Dizzy Gillespie, and so forth. And I was really privileged to be able to get lessons from him after being in his big band when I was in high school. So he said that if you look at a beat as this piece of paper, holding it this way, sorry, I got creased. If you look at it as a beat, this is one beat, okay? And you land on this beat, right? If you split the beat into 3 sections, all right? So I'll just fold this piece of paper like this, okay? And when I unfold it, we'll have 3 sections, all right? So he says that you land on the beat in classical here all the time, right on the beat. But in jazz, in swing, you land also here, either ahead of the beat slightly, but you're still on the beat, squarely on the beat, or slightly, or it feels like you're slightly before the beat. This is something that Count Basie did a lot with his band. So as you can see, there are different styles of swing just by where you land on the note. And I think it's very important that when you're playing a tune like Having a Ball, that you feel the freedom to be almost ahead of the beat or almost behind the beat, sometimes on the beat, and you mix it up. So it sounds like da ba da ba dee ya boo ba oo ba. I mean, you're not so precise with the time there. You're a little bit ahead, you're a little bit before. It sounds like that, right? It's syncopation. If you want to be mathematical about it, but swing is more than syncopation. So for this tune, I highly suggest that you really get yourself in that mode by singing it, okay, like I did. The second part goes da ba doo ba dee ya ba be ya ba ba doo be doo ah da ba doo ba dee ya ba boo dee da ba dee da ba ba dee da da ba da ba dee ya. Okay, and it finishes that, I guess, the A section again. So the thing I just sang was the B section going back to the A section again. So the C section will go da ba doo ba dee ya ba 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 ba doo ba ba dee da 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 ba doo ba dee ya ba ba doo ba dee ya ba ba doo ba dee ya da ba doo ba dee ya ba ba doo ba dee ya ba ba doo ba doo dee doo dee. So that's the whole tune. So in the first section, when you have dotted quarter notes connected to the 2.5 beats that are held, a half note with an eighth note, as in. Okay, that is an example of how, as I showed earlier with the paper, how you're going to be falling on the beat in those cases. The second note after the dotted quarter, you kind of want to jump on the next note almost like ahead of the beat. So again, so you're almost like you're pushing a little bit the next whatever's in front of that note. Okay, so I'm going to play this section by section for you. We're going to use the metronome just for demonstration here, so you can hear how the swing is a lot. It sounds a lot different with the metronome, even though we're keeping time like any other musician would. In jazz, swing gives you a little bit of leeway as to where you're landing on the note, and you'll hear it with a metronome as well. So let's see. That seems like a good tempo. Maybe I'll make it a little slower. Any tempo you like. And by the way, important quick note on metronomes. Please use a separate metronome, a dedicated metronome, and not one on a device like a phone, like a smartphone. or anything that has other functions that is connected to like Wi-Fi, because I can assure you that distractions will interrupt your practice, and those interruptions can really be very bad for you, meaning you'll get zero done, to be blunt, because this has happened to me many times. So try to get a dedicated metronome. This is on the piano. I have other boxes that I use, and this way you can put the phone away and not be distracted. All right, so the first section here, we're gonna swing it. So that's the first section, and then it repeats with an ending. Sorry, it really is articulated. With the tongue on that last note. I'm not used to seeing, honestly, these kind of notations, the accent marks that you see above the notes, like the flat line and the and this one right over here. So these usually are not in fake books and other written music for professionals, because there is a natural inclination to articulate and phrase when you're swinging, because of that extra leeway I was talking about, the note being divided into 3 sections. So the B section here, we sang it before. So similar to the way we sang it, we can play it on the saxophone. And let's give it a try. So it went back to the A section, and the C section we also sang, and it's a pretty long section actually, because it repeats. Da-ba-doo-ba-dee-ya, da-ba-doo-ba-dee-ya. It's sequencing down, right, as in a scale, right? This is in C major. You could play the C major scale over this tune and you would recognize it as fitting in perfectly. So this last part of the song is really an ode to the C major scale, and you're gonna swing your way through this exercise if I were to isolate this section. And I would go a step further in memorizing, because it's a pattern that repeats itself but goes down a step, as in the major scale. So it sounds like this, right? Where is it? Tried to remember memorizing it. Of course, I made some mistakes, so you would go back to the music and see. Right? So then you try memorizing it by turning away. Well, it's a C sharp. And that's the end of the song. So, as you can just see, I learned in front of you, okay, by making some mistakes, But if you memorize that section, in fact, memorize the whole tune, I guarantee you will be one step ahead in this process of understanding the music. And you can apply this understanding to more challenging keys, like F major, G major, because they only have one flat and sharp respectively. So I really want to encourage you all to take the basics, master it well, because these are 100% applied to your intermediate, more advanced studies. In fact, if you skip this stuff, it makes the more advanced stuff, at least from my experience, much more difficult. And that's why I'm covering it, because in my past, I just was lazy and I kind of skimmed over all this stuff and tried to go for the gold, so to speak. But it really didn't work out so well for me. So after I got really ill with this disease, I'm so thankful that I can manage it for now, and be able to share my journey with you in going through this treasure of standard learning material that you can't go wrong with. So if you like this video, please hit the like button, and if you haven't subscribed, kindly do so, and I hope to see you at the next one. Take care.